Auburn's young star quarterback is throwing everybody the deuces. He's got no turnovers so far this spring. Welcome on into the Auburn Powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike Z, and thank you so much for making us one of your first listens of the day. Joining me as he does every single week. We're getting back into the groove, Kyle. We've been basketball focused for weeks, but now it's time to talk football here. Auburn basketball. Their run ended in the Final Four. Finally, I was out in San Antonio to cover it. Before we talk football, we're going to talk about young Deuce Knight today and his progress so far this spring. But I wanted to get your thoughts first on Auburn basketball's historic season. Bruce Pearl called this the best team in Auburn basketball history. He said that this team gave fans a ride that will never be forgotten.
I mean, man, when you really think about all the levels of success that this team had, it's really incredible. Like if you really go back and think about the season from that preseason schedule, which is the hardest one maybe ever, winning at Maui, and then winning the conference, which is probably the hardest conference of all time, not just the SEC, but maybe the hardest conference of all time analytically. I think it was, but it's just, man, accolade after accolade. It was unreal. It was a fun ride. I hated that it ended the way it did. And really you felt like if you just could have hit just a few more shots or a couple of bounces in that last game, and you might be playing for a national championship, a rematch versus Houston. Hey, you beat Houston, you beat the national runner-up. Just dang, that Florida team was good. That they got hot at the right time, and they were just tough, man.
Let me tell you, Walter Clayton Jr. is a monster. And
he's so
at
good.
halftime of that game, I tweeted, if Florida is going to win this game, Walter Clayton's going to have a monster second half. Boy, did he. He had a monster game. Look, hats off to them. Congratulations to them. But I don't think this takes away from what Auburn basketball was able to accomplish this year. Look, making a Final Four is hard. Bruce Pearl has now made 2 in 6 years. I don't think there's anything to hang your hat about before we move on. I did want to get your thoughts. I was in the locker room, and I was able to get a clip from Dylan Cardwell. I asked him, what's your advice to young ballers coming up with NIL and everybody jumping ship? He had a chance to leave. He decided to stay. And he said, look, man, when you look back on your life, do you want to say I chased the money or I followed my heart and did what was right for me, for my family? And, you know, and man, I'm telling you, I posted that on Twitter. It went viral. This thing went viral for all the right reasons, Kyle. Like,
for sure.
Dylan Cardwell is Auburn.
He turned down, like he said, he turned down hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I completely believe him. I think all these kids at some point in time, they can take the money and run if they want to, and there's nothing wrong from a rule standpoint for them to do that. And sometimes I'm like, hey, your value is as maxed out as it possibly will ever be in college, so do what's best for you. But Dylan, I mean, honestly, I would like Dylan to just give me a pep talk every morning, like before I go to work. I'd pay him just for like he needs to get on Cameo and just give me a good morning thought for the day. He's just so wise beyond his years, and he's been through a lot at Auburn, and I think he's gonna reap the rewards of being, like you said, embodying Auburn for the rest of his life. I think he could be Auburn ambassador if he wanted to, to anywhere. He needs to get on that high school recruitment staff, and you know, everybody knows him, everybody loves him. It's gonna be hard watching Auburn basketball without him being out there.
Yeah, if there was one kid that I hoped would come back to Auburn and actually join Bruce Pearl's staff as, you know, a GA and eventually coach, is Dylan Cardwell. Certainly, lots of wisdom. I appreciate him sharing that moment. It's always tough in there having to answer questions after probably what is the most devastating loss of your life.
For sure,
but
man.
certainly Dylan Cardwell is just, again, he is Auburn University. Let's talk football here. Deuce Knight reportedly has thrown 0 interceptions so far through the spring. Assuming that the quarterbacks are not getting hit, I'm going to make the leap and say he's got no turnovers so far at all this spring. We've talked about this. Your sources are telling you that Deuce is way far ahead of where they thought he would be at this point in his career. I love where Hugh Freeze is at this spring. You don't have to pretend to split reps with 4 or 5 guys to try to keep people happy. You got 2 guys. You got Jackson Arnold and you got Deuce Knight, and everybody knows Jackson's going to start, but Deuce is getting meaningful reps this spring.
I honestly, the more and more I think about it, I think about how huge of a blessing it is to actually only have 2 quarterbacks. This whole quarterback room situation is just turning out to be fantastic. I mean, I really wish his name escapes me from Stanford. I wish he could have been here, but I like the idea that Deuce is getting all these reps. And like you said, this is not your typical freshman. I mean, you just saw the highlight. It was actually supposed to be a Sam Turner highlight on Twitter that Auburn football just posted today. But what about the throw?
Yeah.
What about the throw in the end zone, the back shoulder from 35 yards on a dot? I mean, he's making big time plays. I think it's pretty clear that Jackson is the number 1 guy. But now, like, you have a legitimate number 2 quarterback. That like if something were to happen to Jackson, you're feeling more and more confident every day that you may not have much of a drop off if Deuce has to go in there. I mean, that's light years ahead of where we were just a little bit, 6-7 months ago.
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think, again, Jackson Arnold's going to start, and rightfully so. I think that's the right decision. Not a big fan of true freshmen at this level.
Sure.
Like, starting in the SEC, I think it can be a detriment to a young quarterback's success and his chances for success if you throw him out there too early. But we saw Florida go to DJ Lagway midway through the season. Extremely talented young quarterback. Turned out to be the right decision for them. Hopefully, I hope that's not where Auburn's at, though. I like that Deuce is progressing, but I hope that Jackson Arnold is that guy. Now, this is a former 5-star quarterback guy. You need 2 quarterbacks in this league to get the job done. You got to have 2, right?
Yeah.
And,
sure.
Fans should favor whoever is going to give them the best chance to win. And right now, I think that's Jackson Arnold. There's no replacement for experience, Kyle. Like,
Sure.
if you've gone out there and you've done it, I think that weighs heavy in this thing. But it is somewhat comforting to know that, given the struggles Auburn has had developing QBs, that the young quarterback is coming along nicely. So far at Auburn, Hugh Freeze has not had a lot of luck with quarterbacks, I would say, through the first couple of years at Auburn.
No, he's obviously had some struggles at that position in particular, but now you kind of feel like you got 2 guys that you can go into the season and go into the future with. And I know people are going to always ask, does Deuce have a shot to win? Because he's like your homegrown guy. Like, you know what I mean? You recruited him, you brought him in, he committed, he signed with Auburn, he's the 5-star. So I think there's going to be a little bit of an allegiance from Auburn fans and just people that watch and follow Auburn to want Deuce to succeed. And I think that's obviously a great thing to want and desire, because anytime you bring in a quarterback like that, you want him to succeed. But still, even though he's getting all the praise and having such a good spring, I think you still got to be a little bit patient with him and don't rush it to where we're like, you got to give Deuce the ball. Deuce has got to be the guy. Deuce has got to be the guy. He's going to be the guy. Like, he's showing all of the tools. He's showing that, hey, I'm not here to be I'm just going to hang out for 2 years and then I'll take my shot. Like, he's coming. He's trying to win the job. Like, and he's showing that he's here to work and try to win the job. And man, the difference that it feels like from last year to this year, this whole spring could not have played out any better for this particular quarterback room, I don't think.
I agree. Look, if you're Deuce Knight, you have to prepare as if you're going to be the starter, as if you're going 100%. To be needed. There's no other way to prepare if you're him, I think. But also, I think he can learn a lot from Jackson Arnold. Honestly, you sit back, you wait your turn, you be patient, and hopefully when your time comes, the team is in a better situation for him to succeed. I'm talking about O-line, wide receivers, running backs. Can't go out there and do it on your own. So you need those pieces around Deuce to be ready. Hell, you need the pieces around Jackson to be ready, quite honestly. I'm not a big fan of turning to your quarterback and asking him to save you, right?
Yeah, for
From
sure.
no O-line and no receivers and a bad system and all this stuff, right? So, look, having the players to do it is the first step. My good friend Josh Pate over at the Josh Pate College Football Show says this. He said, "Look, man, when Nick Saban was in the conference, he said you're not going to outdevelop Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. You need dudes, right? And Deuce
Yeah,
Knight is a dude. I think that people are forgetting because of the tough year that Oklahoma had at quarterback that Jackson Arnold is a dude."
exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I think we saw enough from him to know that he's a guy who can get it done. Will he get it done? Hopefully, the coaches put him in the best position to do that. Because here's what I'm not expecting. Right at this point, before we move on, I'm not. If Jackson Arnold can't get it done, all these kids can't be bust. My hopes for Deuce Knight are not going to be high, and not through any fault of Deuce's. Hear me out. Right. If Jackson can't get it done, Auburn's got a problem. Auburn's got a
Yeah, it's
problem
either
that goes beyond players, right?
it's either you got an evaluation issue, or you got a development issue. It's one of the
Correct.
two. Like you can't just keep pulling in these dudes that have all these accolades and then they just continue to bust. Like at some point in time, you're gonna have to look in the mirror and decide, hey, we either got to change the way we pick out which quarterbacks we want to roll with, or we got to change the way that we're coaching these guys. One of the two. It's got to change. And I'm with you 100%. Don't get me wrong. Like, don't get caught up in the Deuce Knight hype and think that because one is doing well, the other has to be doing bad.
Doing bad.
Jackson's
Yeah.
also having a really good spring. And by all accounts, it's the craziest spring ever because, for years and years now, all you hear is defense dominates the offense.
Yeah.
Defense won the day again. All these turnovers, this, that, and the other. Up until this past Saturday, it's really been like the most balanced spring you could ask for. The offense would win their battles, the defense would win their battles. And you really can't really point to one or the other as far as who's got the upper hand for the spring. And I
Right.
think that is the most ideal thing you could ask for in a spring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, how likely is it that Auburn is going to need Deuce Knight to start a meaningful game this season? We'll talk about that next on the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. This episode of the Auburn Express is brought to you by our friends at the Vibe Vault. If you're in the Phoenix City, Columbus area, or hell, if you're in Opelika and Auburn, you don't mind to drive, head on down to the Vibe Vault. You can find them at 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye in Phoenix City, Alabama. Our guy Steve Watkins over there serving up some nice cuts for the community. It's where I go to get my haircut. And you should too. Visit them again, 3462 Crosswinds Road, Sweet Eye, Phoenix City, Alabama. That's right across from Chattahoochee Valley Community College, right there on Highway 431. Also, this episode is brought to you by our friends at the Rogue Shop. Visit rogueshop.com and use code reporter, get 15% off that Rogue Shop order. Pain, sleep, stress, anxiety, whatever ails you in life, the Rogue Shop has something that has you covered. If the tournament was stressful for you like it was for me, the Rogue Shop can help keep you calm. Not a whole lot to stress out about over the next few weeks. I don't know. Maybe baseball. Maybe baseball gives us some stress here. Butch Thompson is doing really, really well on the diamond. The SEC is tough as ever, but the Rogue Shop is here to take you through every step of that. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank our friends at Golden's Cast Iron. Visit goldenscastiron.com/WR and use code Get Your Weight Up for 15% off your weights and code TWR for $65 off fire pits and Kamado grills. I have the Kamado grill. Spring is here. It's time to get outside, grill up something nice, make some memories with the family. Golden's Cast Iron can help you get that done. Also, if you're looking to get in shape, the weights are not a bad thing to have at the house so you can stay in shape on the run. Let's jump back in here. Look, if Hugh Freeze needs his backup, what are the chances that he's going to need his backup this year? Now, for the last few years, over half the conference, Kyle, has had to go to their backup QB to start a meaningful game in conference play. Look, in a perfect world, guys stay healthy and they play well.
Sure.
But Yeah, in the imperfect world that we live in, guys don't play well sometimes and they get hurt. So if you're Auburn, how scared? Let me ask this question differently. How panicked are you if Auburn has to go to Deuce Knight for one reason or another this season?
Well, the more and more I hear, the less and less I would be concerned. I'm curious to see really how Ashton Daniels works into this scenario too. Whenever we get into the season, I think it would be timing wise. Like I think if it was something earlier in the season, if Jackson were to have like a season-ending injury early, I think you may look at Ashton Daniels. And then if it's later in the season, kind of like Florida last year, it might be a situation to where you look at going with Deuce, similar to the way they did. But how many teams get better when their backup quarterback goes in? So like you
Right.
kind of got to understand that that's just not really going to be. It's not like there's going to be a drop off. In theory, there should be a drop off from 1 to 2. But with that being said, I just like everything I'm hearing about Deuce. And I think another thing, man, you put that kid on the field and it's live and he can actually run, man, it makes this whole makes that whole thing way different. So I would be concerned from the standpoint of you're probably not going to compete for a championship, but I would not be concerned that it's going to tank the future or tank this or tank that, because I think Deuce is going to be I think he's going to be really good.
Yeah, I do too. Look, I think Auburn is in a great position with their quarterbacks. I think they have two really, really good quarterbacks with two very, very high ceilings.
Yes.
So, yeah, if Jackson Arnold is not successful for whatever reason, I'm going to have a hard time pointing at thinking bust. Right.
Yeah.
I think you said it perfectly. I think you either got a evaluation issue or you got a development issue, getting all these high level kids in here and them not turning into anything. But look, Hugh Freeze has done well with quarterbacks over his career. Coming into Auburn, the game has changed a little bit, Kyle. It's different than it was when he was at Ole Miss. Certainly, now he had Malik Willis at Liberty, who turned into a third-round draft pick, I believe. But yeah, it's time to get this ball turned around at Auburn. When Auburn has been able to find a quarterback, they have been in contention for championships, and that's going all the way back to early 2000s when Jason Campbell had his breakout year, undefeated season. Cam Newton comes through this joint. Bam, right? Like undefeated national championship, Heisman. Nick Marshall comes through, maybe not the best thrower, but just a dual threat. They were 3 points away. Jarrett Stidham comes through. They were so close to making that playoff. They had beat Georgia that second time. When they've been able to find a quarterback, they've been in contention. Hugh Freeze, it's his turn. It feels like every coach that's come through, except for Brian Harsin, has been able to find one.
Yep. And again, you took a gamble last year that you could fix a lot of things around your quarterback, and you did for the most part from a production standpoint. You just couldn't match it on the the win-loss column. So you got one more year. I will say, hey, this is the second year with it's your system. So it's like another year with some of the same players playing in the same system. There's value there. A lot of stuff, all of the things that you can point to and say as reasons why it wouldn't work out, a lot of those are going away. You're checking off a lot of those boxes. So you're getting to the point, like you said, where if it doesn't work again, we got to really start asking some tough questions.
Absolutely. Look, looking forward to it. A-Day is on the 12th. Looks like we're in for a different format for this A-Day. So is it televised? Do we know? Is this thing going to be televised here?
I would highly doubt it. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe the hour time frame makes me think maybe they have something scheduled, but I mean, with them not playing a game, that'd be pretty bad TV, I think.
Hugh Freeze has been pretty open about how he feels about these about spring in general. He'd rather have OTAs, get guys in shape, certainly. But look, hopefully we have something to look at, something to talk about going into summer workouts. Kyle, I want to thank you for joining me. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. Go to thebarnauburn.com, subscribe today. That's our message board. Take $25 off your annual membership, or hey, go to the Barn Auburn YouTube page. We got content dropping every single day, and hopefully I'll be here more weekly. We'll be chopping it up. I love it, man. Look forward to it. I love talking football with you.
Guys, that's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. If you want more content like this, please hit like and subscribe. We are the War Report at every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Signing off, and as always, War Eagle.